Can't be undone, right? I mean,
You can't rebuild them.
You don't, right?
That's
No,
nature's work.
that right. Yeah. So we're changing the homes of, and we.
So that's an external.
That's an
cost
external
that we don't
cost,
realize
right?
in
We
the
don't.
bill that we pay.
Right. The Industrial Revolution was predicated on the idea that resources were cheap and easy to get.
Sure.
There were few people, and resources were cheap and easy to get, and that belief just isn't true, and we're running up against those edges.
And even more so today because those resources are becoming more and more scarce.
Right, and there are more and more people trying to use those resources.
Asheville Now with Peter Bresney, coming soon to URTV.
In the state of West Virginia.
Because of the mining.
Because of the mining, right. We now do the cheapest, easiest way to get coal out of the mountains is actually to cut the top of the mountain off, dump the mountain in the valley. They remove thousands of feet of soil and put it somewhere else in order. So we're changing the landscape of entire counties in West Virginia and other places in the world in order to get the coal out.
Yeah. Beautiful county.
Beautiful land,
yeah.
Right, and
once it's been done, it can't be really.
Can't be undone, yeah. Right. I mean,
you can't rebuild them out.
You don't, right?
That's
no.
nature's work.
That right, yeah. So we're changing the homes of, and we.
So that's an external.
That's an external cost, right? We don't.
In the bill that we pay.
Right. We have, and not only do we not realize it, but right. So, and we could conceivably put a dollar value on that, but I think even then. There are certain things that are beyond the dollar value.
How do you assign a dollar value to walking in a valley and watching the mist rise over a creek?
Right. Or how do you assign a dollar value to the thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of species that have gone out of existence as a result of human activity over the last 100 years?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know that, the Industrial Revolution was predicated on the idea that, resources were cheap and easy to get.
Sure.
There were few people, and resources were cheap and easy to get, and that belief just isn't true, and we're running up against those edges.
Yeah. And even more so today because those resources are becoming more and more scarce.
Right, and there are more and more people trying to use those resources.
So the question is.
Right.
Well, go ahead.
So then you've got the cost at the mining end. Then. Near and dear to my heart is the cost of what it takes when you actually burn the coal. What happens? So we've got global warming, we've got ozone, which we talked about. Sulfur dioxide gets emitted, mercury gets emitted. Mercury is probably most of the mercury problems that we think of as a water quality issue because the mercury gets into the fish. That was once upon a time airborne mercury.
Because it comes from the coal into the
right,
power plant
right,
off the stack.
Right, exactly.
And then how do you assign a dollar cost to not being able to see PIS going on?
Seems improbable to me, but not significantly improbable. I mean, if you don't die before you turn 50, you turn 50. But here I am, I'm 50 years old as of tomorrow, got through my birthday, and I have cancer. I have a form of cancer that, as my oncologist has said many times, is very difficult to cure. So what that means is I don't know how long I get to live, which makes me exactly the same as everybody else on this planet. Only I get to pay attention to it because I got things in my body and all that stuff. Are we still warming up or are we taping?
We're taping.
Oh, good. Here we go.
It's the real deal.
It's just the deal. You told me to keep talking, and I was like, well, is he still pushing buttons? So anyway, behind me, I don't know if you can see me, but behind me, that's Peter and Trina's house. And I came to Peter and Trina's house this afternoon because Peter's got the camera and the expertise to run it. And I want him to be the main cameraman for my, now that I'm 50, video diary, so that I can talk about all the things that I think are important. And maybe after we distill all that out, we'll have 20 or 30 seconds of something worth showing to somebody. Or maybe more. Well, no, we'll see. We'll see. So the great thing about having, I want a physicist to help me with whether or not, can we truly make comparisons between quantum mechanics and everyday life? Is that spurious thinking or is that helpful thinking? Because it seems to me that quantum mechanics is suggesting that we live in a probability cloud, and that we never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. You know what's most likely, and most of the time what's most likely happens, but not always. And all kinds of other things can happen. So I want to have a great big party. I want to have a multifaceted big party. And one of the things I want in this great big party is that I want Michael Franti to come and perform with, actually I want Spearhead to come perform his band. Whoever wants to from the band can come, actually. I don't want to exclude anybody or include, whatever. But I've been really impressed just in the little short time that I've heard his music, and I think it would be so fun for him to come and do a benefit concert if he was willing, for me and for Go Asheville, and we'd just put it together, we'd make it happen. And somebody was telling me, hey, it's really improbable that you're going to be able to get Michael Franti come do a concert for you. And I'm like, how is that more improbable than being an incredibly healthy, vivacious 48-year-old who contracts cancer? I mean, isn't that as improbable as anything gets? So after that, it seems like anything's possible. And that there's no reason to worry about what the limits are anymore. I mean, we know what the limits are. And, how do you describe death? Well, death is when you exhale and then you don't inhale. So if you want to practice, if you want to kind of see what gets in your way, just exhale and feel what is there at the end of the breath before you breathe in again. That's as experiential an opportunity as you're going to get to sort of practice. And like somebody out there's going, or somebody seeing this, if somebody gets to see this, is going, well, why the hell would you want to practice that? And it's like, it's the only trip we absolutely know we're going to take. And most of us don't even bother to, pack a bag or give it a second thought until it's like, most of us, many of us have oh shit deaths, It's like, here comes the idiot who wasn't paying attention through the red light to T-bone you. And your very last thought on this planet gets to be, oh shit. That doesn't seem like the best option. I'd like to, even if it is the idiot who wasn't paying attention, I don't really want oh shit to be my last thought. I guess if I had to pick a last thought right now, I might want it to be, dang, that was fun. Wow, that was good. That was great. Thank you. Thank you all. That would be a good last thought. So, anyway, riffing on death. Not that I'm inviting it. I'm actually working very hard to keep alive. It's actually the point of having a camera stuck in my face at this point, is so that I can document the important alivenesses that I see around us. We're living in troubled times. We're living in hard times. And there's often hard times. I mean, we live in humanity lives in hard times all the time, often of its own making. And we're certainly in a bit of a pickle right now because we're really powerful. We've got a lot of capacity. We're wicked smart. We're just there's no doubt at this point that we're the most dominant, aggressive, capable, manipulative species on the planet. We're the king of the crop right now. what was it, the lions were the king of animals or something? No, it's us. We're, you know, I mean, we don't know much about the consciousness of other higher animals. We don't know much about consciousness of anything. I mean, what do we know about the consciousness of a sea urchin? Probably next to nothing. And we don't know much about the consciousness of things like dolphins and whales, but we do know that they don't manipulate their environment nearly to the extent that we do. And that capacity to manipulate the environment is what makes us both really fascinating and really dangerous. Because while we're very, very smart, we're just not very wise. We're we're adolescents. I mean, the success of humanity is all dependent on whether or not we can survive our own adolescence. That's basically where we're at right now. You know, we need to call in the wisdom of kindness, of joy, the wisdom of the word that we use is this great big word called equanimity, which I love the sound of that word, equanimity. But basically, it could be like chill out. It could be just be like relax. You know, we've made it. We have arrived, and humanity could actually like coast for 1,000 years. And we seem to think there's a whole lot of really important things what we need to do, but really, basically, it boils down to some pretty simple things, really. Actually, what we need to do is make sure that everybody is taken care of. If we just make sure that everybody gets their needs met, and we all want the same thing, so we just start figuring out how to do that. And I'm not saying that's simple, or I am saying it's simple. I just contradicted myself. That's not a surprise, but it is simple. It's just not easy. That's the point. It's not easy. So, but it is simple. And there's a lot of components of this. There's a lot of pieces of this. And if I start going off into those, I'll distract myself right now, because along with the kindness and the joy, and along with the relax, the need to just relax. The other thing that we need is we need a parental mindfulness. You know, we need the mind with which you guide, and that with which you guide your children, with which we guide, you know, we divert them from danger. We teach them that we believe in not hurting each other, and we believe them in to be kind to each other. We know what we value, and you know what? No matter, many of us have really different beliefs, but we have fundamentally the same values. If we look a little different, a little bit down below, we see that we fundamentally want the exact same things, you know? So I'm starting a website called wakeupmama.org. And the idea of that website is to inspire, encourage, intend to bring the parental energy necessary to keep an adolescent species, a very clever, the cleverest of apes, to keep us from blowing up our world. Because we can. And I defy anybody to suggest that we can't, you know. Before I was born, we dropped some pretty darn big bombs on Japan, and you know, now everybody's got access to those big bombs. And anybody who's mad enough might want to use them. And so the security, the only security that we have, and it's not very secure, but it's the only security we have, isn't in protecting ourselves, but in seeing if we can meet everybody's needs. You know? I think about the the times in my life that I've done destructive things to self and to others. They weren't happy, joyful times. They weren't times where I was relaxed. They weren't times when I felt well cared for. So that's it. That's what I'm interested in. And there's only about an infinite number of directions that this can go, from the creative to the inspiring, and I don't know what the journey will look like, but I'm inviting you all to come with me, and I'm going to put together some topics that are sort of the first topics that I'm interested in thinking about and writing about, and I've mentioned a few of them already. That thing about magnanimous mind, joyful mind, and parental mind. That's Dogen. He was a Japanese guy. And so the whole Buddhist line of thinking is something very important to me that I'm passionate about. We need a way in this culture to talk about population. And, you know, I think we need to make a conscious decision that we need fewer human beings on this planet if the planet is to survive. And if we don't do that in as kind and gentle a way as possible, the planet will do it for us, and that will probably be ugly and mean. Not mean, just ugly and painful. It's just the nature of biology. If you grow beyond the capacity of the environment to support you, you die in a painful way. So we need to talk about population contraction and how humanity can do that in a way that is not coercive. You know, the Chinese tried. That's not the model, but we can do these things by actually. You know, I've lived 50 years. I've never had a kid. It's been a good life. I've had a lot of energy for other people's kids. How do we know we have too many children? Well, it's simple. We have children that nobody wants. How can there be a child born on this planet, a human child born on this planet that no human being wants to care for and take care of and love and bring along and make into a good human being? That the only way that can happen is if there's just too many of us, you know. We're too many rats in the maze. We're too many rats in the cage, and it makes us crazy. If there were fewer of us, we would be less crazy. And so, without any coercion, but with a sense of shared values, we need to open up to the idea that we can control our own population in a reasonable way, and we need to be talking about that. So on and on. I got only about an infinite number of ideas like that we need to explore. So Peter, what do you want me to talk about next? How are we doing so far?
Good so far.
I'm getting hot.
Yeah.
I'm getting hot here. Okay, so we're going to try this once, and then maybe you'll send me this so I can see it, and then I'll write a script. So this is, it's really actually good to hear. I mean, I often don't know what I want to write down until I hear what I say.
Yeah.
So
and
it's,
you're like, oh, I could have said.
yeah, right. So are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Margie Meares, and this is wakeupmama.org. It's a website that I hope will provide a forum for which those who are interested can explore the ideas of actually creating the life we want to live on this planet. Here we all are. We're all in this together. There's whatever there are, 8 billion human beings and billions of other living beings, all sharing this planet together. We're all in this together. And we often don't act like it. So this website is to inspire us, to encourage kindness and wisdom and sort of the energy of a good mama. We need human beings, if human beings are to survive their adolescence, we need to evoke our maternal and paternal instincts to help us. And so that's where I came up with this Wake Up Mama thing as a way of I mean, it works on so many different levels. You know, it's my deepest wish that some maternal instinct, some maternal power would come down upon us and say, you know, you guys are playing with matches in the living room and I'm taking the matches away from you. You know, you really don't know how to drive that car safely, I'm taking the keys. But I understand that while that's a heart wish, it's maybe not realistic. What may need to happen is that we may need to develop that capacity for ourselves. And as a part of that, there are all kinds of spiritual and policy types of things that I want to think about and talk about, and I want to use this website as a vehicle to do that, and I want you to join with me and share your writings and your artwork and your video work and whatever you want to share right here on this space. So welcome to the world of Wake Up Mama. Imagine a world where we actually pay attention to the fact that we're all in this together, that we all want the same things, that we all want to live in a world of kindness. You know, we all have varying beliefs. We all believe a lot of different things. We all believe in different manifestations of God or no God or whatever. But if we get behind those beliefs, we actually value the same things. And I can prove it. We've actually set up a little quiz here that we're going to do where you can circle what you value out of a list. And let's do that, and let's see if it's true that a self-selected group of humanity all value the same thing. And I think we do, because I think we all value the same things. So here it is. Look around. There's not much yet. It's just sort of, you know, just moved in. The furniture's fairly sparse, but I think it's going to grow fast. And if you're interested in participating, there's a link here somewhere that where you can send us an email. So once again, welcome to wakeupmama.org.
We were thinking about, well, what kind of, how do we want the world to be like? What's a world that would be a world we want to live in? What would that be like, you know? And it seems like right now we're at this juncture in humankind where we have all this energy. It's almost like the species is sort of an adolescent. We have a lot of power. You know, we got big machines out of our control. We have a lot of energy and a lot of power, and not a whole lot of guidance.
Or wisdom.
Or wisdom. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, I find in my being, at least inside of me, that I want this sort of maternal instinct to wake up and be like, you know, snatch the matches away from me before I burn the house down, or take the keys away from me before I run the car off the cliff, and help me make this next step in. I mean, I really do think humankind is right on the verge, really on the verge of conscious cultural evolution, conscious evolution that impacts not only humankind but the entire planet. Absolutely. So I'm really curious about what that looks like, and so I'm starting to have conversations with people about just, I mean, really randomly at this point, really like, oh, you want to come over? You want to hang out for a while? Okay, well, Peter and I are doing this thing. Come sit on my couch and talk to me for a while.
Uh-oh.
So you're part of the movie.
Uh-oh. Is that thing going now?
My guess is that
Probably.
Peter wouldn't have left the room until he turned the camera on. That would be my guess.
Peter, did you turn that on?
He won't. He'll deny it.
Peter,
Say what?
did you turn that on? Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
Margie, she gets going before anybody's ready.
Well, Nettie
gotta
asked
be
me what
ready.
we were doing, so
Yeah.
I had to tell her what we were doing.
What? That's, yeah. Yeah. So is this the first, or have you like had other
I had a
couch
sit-
We're being invaded.
conversations?
Come on in.
Nothing unusual for this house. You never know.
I didn't get there till the end of 78.
86.
86.
86.
I mean, because you
Sorry.
and I met in
Yeah.
85, 86.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you were already working at Woods and that.
So 85, maybe 84. Because
Yeah,
we left.
yes.
I left in 86.
We left in 86. So yeah,
84.
somewhere between 82 and 84. And
That's
you
not-
started for Woods.
Right. Because I graduated college. That's right. Lost my decades. Graduated college in 82. Went to Tennessee. Did some Blairsville, Georgia, Wolf Creek Wilderness School. Did some work for them.
Yeah.
Did a little work for. I didn't do any work for Outward Bound before. Wolf Creek Wilderness School, and then I came to Woodston. So that would have been 84, 85, 86 was when I was at Woodston. Yeah.
So I was already married.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. 82 I got married.
That was when I met you.
Yeah.
Try flipping the switch.
It's coming up on
on that
30
wall.
years ago.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
The 30 years.
When that 30 years happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday.
That was yesterday. Oh, it was yesterday. Okay. I couldn't remember when it was. That's yesterday. And that goes to partly what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Did we, bringing it down from a global level to a personal level, did we plan? Did we envision? I mean, you're talking about envisioning more on a global level.
Right,
Wake up, mama.
right.
Let's look at, just briefly at the last 30 years.
Right.
Did we as individuals foresee something, aim for it, try to create a lifestyle, a space, a philosophical outlook that might bring others to give thought to it, or to develop something similar? Or,
I don't know, were you aiming?
afraid not. I don't think. Don Paget asked me one time what my professional objectives were, and I laughed. Professional objectives? I don't know. I keep a job until I don't
sick
like
of
it
it.
anymore, and then I find another one. So I don't. So I think there's something underlying. I'm not saying we ought to apologize for not aiming and planning.
No.
But there's something underlying on a personal level that would suit on a more community or global level. And that's not how to get somewhere, it's how to be. I'm starting to sound like, be now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, we're getting pretty woo-woo here.
Yeah.
It's just
But
gonna be woo-woo.
to me, when you say wake up, mama, it's wake up, how to be.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so evocative to me about that phrase is that you can go a lot of different places with it. It's
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like wake up.
Yeah.
That's it. And then it's like wake up, and then it's done. It's not at that level. You're right. There isn't any planning that's required. It's just if I mean, if the objective is to be fully present in what's happening as it's happening, then yeah, you're not aiming for that, you're just doing that. I mean, I think but on the other hand, what seems equally important though is that we have to realize that we actually do design the future as culturally, right? I mean, where we're at right now is at the end of the Industrial Revolution. We are paying the price, we're settling up, busted in the blinding lights of closing time in terms of the Industrial Revolution right now.
Yeah, okay.
And that was a 200-year joyride of humanity that we designed, but we didn't actually consciously design it. It just sort of flowed from this happened and this happened and this happened. Okay, well on that global, on the global scale. See, this is the other part of me that you don't know that much about, is that, before I came to work at Woodson, I spent 4 years at Duke studying public policy. And
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so if we're going to do that part, that part's going to happen. So now, we sort of, we do governance. The way humankind has thought to do governance, and it's appropriate in most situations, is, hey, look, there's some rules that we have to have enforcing our behavior together, and if you break the rules, you're going to be punished. But maybe the next step is to say, all right, society isn't just something, it's something that is forming itself every day. And we want to get clear as a community, not coercively, but truly clear, in consensus, what the intention, the volition of our lives together is, and how it moves forward. And so, like you, I haven't planned my life. I didn't intentionally set out to be, my career goals were, my career planning was a lot like yours, it's like, as long as I like the job, I'll take it. I'll tell you something really good. You told me about that one time too. But that doesn't mean that it's not my experience that when I do make intention about something, that then whatever I create out of that intention is not clearer and better and stronger than when I don't make an intention to do something. So even though I haven't, even though I haven't done the global plan, in my life I use intention and planning all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's an appropriate, I think it's an interesting tool to bring to thinking about humanity and life on the planet and all that.
Intention. This is
Intention.
the tool of intention.
The tool of intention, yeah.
Let me, I belabor some things, but I do stuff through stories. That's how I see things. Billy A. in New Jersey was washing his car one day, and in the next driveway, which was smack up next to it, was Miss Salyer's car. Well, he got time, he washed it too.
Right.
He didn't want to get paid for it.
Right.
He didn't care if she knew it or not.
Right.
Didn't care if she came out and got in the car and never knew it was washed.
Right.
But he washed it.
Right.
His intention was honorable.
Yes.
It's good.
Yes.
Miss Salyer did come out on the side porch. She said, Billy, where are you going to college? I'm not going to college. I'm taking a general course and blah, blah, blah. And my father wants me to go to work. And she said, well, why don't you take a post-grad course half time next year after you get out of high school? Come back, take some, and I'll see about finding you to college. Good. His father would get off his back. He could stay with his girlfriend. Her intention, she didn't want him to become her son or to pay her for it or anything else. Her intention was good.
Right.
Billy went to college, blah, blah, blah. Somebody came. Eventually, Billy went to Brevard College, and I was in the Army, came down to visit him. I went to Brevard College. But anyway, the intentions were pure.
Right.
And so, as we go forward, personally, in a community, or globally, what are our intentions?
Yes. Yes.
And so, are there good intentions and bad intentions, or selfish intentions and beneficent? Is that a word? But
Yeah, sure.
Intentions? Tell me about intentions. How do you
Well,
figure them out?
Well, you know, one of the things I've done with a couple of groups is that I give them a piece of paper that just has a list of different, you know, qualities. Peace, anger, frustration, respect, humility. And I ask them to circle the ones that they would like to see more of, either in their personal lives or in the world in general. And to cross out the ones that they'd like to see less of. And if they're neutral about one, just leave it neutral. And it's kind of a stupid test, because guess what? Nobody circles anger. Nobody circles, really.
Some people should, I think.
Because, so you think some people should want there to be more anger in the world, or more anger in their lives?
Yeah, but not, and then it becomes with how to express it.
Right, right. So it gets more complicated.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, it could get real complicated.
But what's interesting is that we do generally want to live in a world that is more peaceful and happier and more kind. I think really kindness is probably, kindness will probably be the word that will work for us better than any other word as we, in terms of what I'm thinking of in terms of this intention. Because yeah, there are good intentions and bad intentions, and I'm really clear that this idea of waking up, the part of what you wake up to is that when you're greedy, when you're selfish, when it's all, you know, when you look over and go, I'd wash that car if that old bitch would ever give me any money, you know, that makes, that one little act, that thought is a diminishment, a darkening, a contraction of the world. Whereas it's a beautiful afternoon, I'm really enjoying washing cars, I'm going to wash this car too, is a moment of opening, a moment of expansion. And I'm suggesting that we actually begin to talk about that in the biggest public arena possible, and to aim our culture and civilization that way. Right behind you it says, love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. I believe that. Totally believe that. There is no doubt in my being that is so. So how do we make that part of the public discourse?
Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, people will not be able to
Humanity
survive.
cannot survive.
Cannot survive.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Or think about a world where they didn't exist.
Um,
It wouldn't be worth living.
no. There's a question that comes up and was asked of me a while back in that regard is, where do you get your joy?
Yeah.
Where do you get your joy? And I think about people who, about where they get it. David Wilcox, who lives just around the corner here
Yeah, not so
somewhere,
far from you.
he'd read a book when he traveled, you know, because he didn't want the person next to him. But sometimes he'd think, well, maybe I'll learn something. So he'd ask people, what's happening in life? What's coming up? What are you looking forward to? And the example he gives is a young guy. I'm getting a car, right? Oh yeah, what kind is it? Well, it's a blah 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 blah. How much do those things cost now? Well, but it's finance. Oh yeah, how long they finance? 6 years. How much a month? Well, so much. He said, you're really into that. What's the moment of payoff? Is it when you drive in your girlfriend's driveway? When you see the guys at the car hop? What's the moment of payoff?
Uh-huh.
Wow, yeah, well, I can't wait to my girlfriend. Boy, phew. Is it worth it? 6 years? $400 a month?
Right.
So where do you get your joy?
Right.
Is it like that? And, or
Right.
is it,
That's a good start.
does it linger?
Uh-huh.
Where do you get it? And I thought about it a while, and I decided I get mine in small bites.
Uh-huh. Say what that looks like.
It looks like somebody pushing a little kid in a cart and stopping long enough to pick a flower and hand it to the kid, and the kid looks at it and hands it back. Or you're in the Mediterranean, there's this couple that comes in, and you can tell that they're challenged in some mentally or something. And they're counting their money and say to the waitress, if we get this, do we have enough money? And you see this guy sitting in another booth, and he's looking at the waitress. Yeah, you have enough money to get that. They have 26 cents.
Right.
And they get it, and they go out happy they paid for the meal, and the guy goes and pays for it.
Right.
You know, and I watched that happen. And I watched somebody else do it. And I thought, wow. And I mean, I could live on that for a week.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's great is I can live on you just telling it.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is totally joyful. being here.
But you're on a mission.
She has a 12-year-old who's calling to find out where she is.
Where are you, Ma?
Good to see you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry we
you're one
haven't
of
talked,
these.
but
Let me know when it's happening.
well, okay.
You know, it's
You know how?
spontaneous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It happened. What, yesterday? But
Yeah.
okay. Good to see you.
Bye.
Last night, really.
Yeah, last night. Got it
Last
last
night.
week. Yeah, yeah. So
So,
can I eat a little something? Yeah. I have some. Ruth made me some eggs.
change in your discussion, words, presentation, having a camera in the room? Does that?
Well, it's an opportunity. You know, I mean, you and I could sit here and have a conversation and we'd have a conversation and be wonderful, and Peter'd enjoy it, and Nettie and Ruth and whatever. But again, it's intention. You know, if we load a camera, now suddenly we're putting our words in the bow of technology, and it's possible. You know, it's possible that you or I might say something really wise just by accident.
Yeah, all right.
It's
That
possible.
better be you.
Yeah, it's just possible, you know, and 1 billion people would hear it. So, and you know, and maybe out of that 1 billion people, you know, 1 million would be like moved and inspired and shifted, and just the same way that, you know, Billy washed her car. You know, it's possible that we might launch into existence some
100th monkey.
Yeah, some ideas,
Some something.
Washing those sweet
I
potatoes.
think, you know, I forget a camera's in the room pretty quickly. You know, that.
It's probably a good thing.
But at the onset, there's a realization in me that I want to be thoughtful, relatively concise, don't blah, 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 blah on. You know, cellulose costs money, but it's not cellulose anymore.
Right.
So I want to be more present, more
Right.
thoughtful, more,
Kinda
yeah.
Wakes you up a little bit. Have a
I
camera.
was just wondering
Yeah.
if it were intimidating or not. No, to me, it's
No.
not at all intimidating. It's like
So there's a little, it's a little straightening, but,
Yeah, yeah.
but not intimidating.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be intimidating if I could see myself
Right.
Because I never look as good on film as I really am.
That's probably so. None of us do.
Anyway, unless it's seriously edited.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the point where we're gonna have on those powder people.
Make
You
it
know,
through.
it does surprise me. I think I go in the bank and I look at the monitor and I think, who is that old guy at the desk with no hair on the back of his head? It's me.
Yeah, that's me. So how old are you?
68,
68.
and I'm happy.
Yeah, you look happy. So you're right. You're right on that. I mean, you would have been 18 when I was born, so you're really not. I mean, I guess biologically you'd be like old enough to be in the next generation, old enough to be my dad, but I remember when like I said, when I came to work for Woodson, Will hired me, and then I don't have a specific like oh, that was when I met Toby memory, but I have some memories of alone in your office, and it must have been within the first 4 months of me working for Woodson at some point, you know, and it's part of my introduction. I mean, it could have been within the first 2 days, you know, but I remember you saying, okay, so as long as you, so let me explain how this works, you know, and you were basically explaining that, you know, Woodson had this model that worked within this division of, you know, justice, division of youth services, you know, the whole, you know, this whole model. And basically what you said about it was, so I want you to understand how this works. You work for me, and I work for the state of North Carolina. And it's my job to keep the state of North Carolina off your back so you can do your job. That was, you know, talk about unique, talk about sort of a stunning message to get, you know, early on in this program. It was like, oh, this is a human program. This is a program where people take responsibility and accountability for what they're doing. And that's the important part. Oh, by the way, we do that in the framework of a bureaucracy because the bureaucracy was here, and that's how
They give us money.
They give us money, right? They fund it. They let it happen, and we respect. You know, there wasn't a sense of, you know, they're a problem, but they're not. It's not, you know, it's not a perfect alignment. And it's my job to take care of that not perfect alignment. And it's not your job to worry about it. It's your job to go out there and work with those kids and do what we do.
Okay.
And so that was probably the thing that set it in stone from the very beginning, was just that sense of that, you know, that you had clear, firm, real expectations for us. Wasn't any secret about what they were. If we screwed up, there was a possibility that we'd get another chance, but would depend, you know. And we should keep our focus on doing what we were supposed to do and not worry about the politics going on around us.
Okay, carry that into Wake Up Mama and a more community or global, what you just said.
Right.
I mean, I don't know whether I meant all that stuff back then. I was just, you know, that's, what I said was what I said. What
Right.
you heard was what you heard. And
But what I heard,
you heard,
yes, it doesn't mischaracterize what you meant, does
no,
it?
it doesn't mischaracterize it at all. But what you heard had a whole lot to do with who you are.
Right.
Because somebody else could hear those same words and think, this is going to be a ball. I'd be out there in the woods and he's going to keep the state from messing with me. I'm going to have a good time. You know, I mean, it could go either way.
Could have. Right?
Right.
Could have gone either way.
But so it takes it takes two. It takes, what's the intention?
Right.
Again, what's the intention?
Right. And see, here's the thing. I mean, while you weren't intending your career, you did have a very clear intention about what it was that Camp Woodson was doing, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
What were they doing? What were we doing?
They were, what was Camp Woodson doing? Camp Woodson, my purpose for Camp Woodson was to gather teachers. And a teacher to me would be a person who is excited about the process of learning. And in their excitement, in their moving forward with learning, they create a backdraft in their boat that sucks in other people. And other people get excited about it. So to hire a staff that was excited about learning and life and had some scruples.
Right.
And to take that group of people and to put them with young people who were adrift
Yes.
and were just bobbing out there, and to pull them into their, is it a backdraft, Peter? What is it behind the boat? Trucking, you call it drafting. You
Yeah.
get in a draft. You
Yeah,
get
yeah.
sucked into it.
Yeah.
And then at some point, the teacher realizes, oh, this kid's getting ahead of me, and that kid's getting ahead of me. What are they doing? Oh, wow. And the kids, at times, become the teachers. That was what I wanted to see happening.
Did you see that happen?
Oh, yeah. And it would, sometimes, a kid would get jerked out of the program, this, that, and the other, and come back to the center, and but it didn't mean it was failure, because later on, that how often pick something in your life, something maybe from your high school years, that at the time when it happened, or you thought, it stuck in your memory for some reason.
Yeah.
But you didn't know why.
Right.
It was a memorable experience. And later on, you really cashed in on that.
Yeah.
You thought, wow. Can you think of one? Or somebody back there?
The thing that actually came to me was, and it's funny, maybe it's because we're talking about Camp Woodson, was the very first time I did a ropes course. I was a student at Duke, and I was on this thing. They did a thing called Project Wild, which was like a modified outward bound. And I did a ropes course. I did it one summer the summer before my senior year, and we go to this place out in the woods, just out near the gym. There's this little patch of woods near the gym, and they just walk us out there, and then they put us in harnesses and throw us up in the trees. And I remember, and that day it was August and it rained, but there was no thunder and lightning, and so we did this whole ropes course in the rain. And I remember sitting up there in that tree, tied into this tree in a pouring rain. I mean, talk about how your joy meter get. I mean, I was so full of joy that I was busted. I mean, I was just absolutely like the Cheshire cat. I was just this one huge smile that human beings could go up and play in the trees while it was raining was just this glorious moment in my life. And and at the time it was just like, this is so cool. And that experience it's been tremendous. And I mean, you can draw a direct line from that experience to Camp Woodson.
Sure, to over in Georgia.
Right, to the whole process.
But you didn't say that night, I'm going to do this for a living.
No.
It was just like, something happened, it was
Although I did, when I did come away from that experience going, you know what, I'd like to figure out how to find somebody who'd pay me to go backpacking for a living. Not just that ropes course experience, but that whole experience was the kind of the beginning of the idea that I could backpack for a living.
So something happens, and so that's what I'm talking about with these kids. Basically,
Right.
There's
Some light bulb goes on.
one of the things I loved about it
Uh-huh.
deeply was that these guys and the girl, there was usually 3/4 guys, 1/4 girls in the thing, would experience a whole different notion of what it meant to be a man or a woman. And pretty often the best climbers were women.
Right.
The fine paddlers were women. And that was a whole new notion to a lot of those guys. And the guys were kind, and the guys saw themselves, at least most of them, some of them, a few of them, saw themselves as equal to women.
Uh-huh.
So these kids were getting a whole different take.
Yes.
Now, that might not mean anything when they get back to their immediate neighborhood. They got to strut their stuff or whatever. But it might mean something when they decide to pair up with somebody for a life partnership.
Right.
It might mean, I don't have to be.
So do you have, one of the things that I think that was hard for me was that, in the couple of years that I worked at Camp Woodson, I don't have anybody who really stands out in my mind as, wow, I know that kid's life was really made different and better as a result of this program. I had sort of had the faith that was so, but I didn't, for whatever reason, it may have been just because just showing up and doing that job was enough of a challenge for me that I didn't have any extra kind of bandwidth to watch I didn't necessarily, or maybe I didn't know how to look. I wasn't very good at watching the maturation of the students as they were going through the program. I saw that, I understood what happened to the ones who didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
But that didn't necessarily mean failure.
Right.
Okay.
Right, I know that. I just,
They were on a treetop like a Cheshire cat one day, and they might think back on that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. Right. And so it was a whole lot of seed planting where we didn't get to see much of the results.
Mm-hmm.
And in retrospect, do you have a sense that you saw plenty enough results, that we sucked a lot of people along in that stream and dumped them downriver in a better place?
I've statistical results. We did recidivism studies within DYS, and then we were often delayed in, you're not allowed to follow them after, you're not allowed to hunt them down after they paid up.
Right.
And so there's a system that got used of, later on it was after you, I guess, of giving the kid a card and saying, call this number at 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year. And we'll ask you some questions. And, where are you? What are you doing? Are you in jail? Are you in high school? Are you in veteran? And we'll ask you, at the end, we'll ask you who, give us 2 people to verify these, your principal, your boss, your jailer, or whoever. And then the last question is, where do you want your $25 sent? And so they get $25.
That probably worked.
And for $25, we'd get verifiable information, and we did not go out and look for the kid.
Right.
We didn't interrupt their privacy.
Right.
They chose to do it.
Yeah.
And so we did that for a while, and the results were good, and the kids would so often at the end they'd say, how's Margie Meares? how's so and so doing? They remembered. They remembered those people. You know, one or two, you know, different ones for different kids, and that was probably as important to me as the rest of the information.
Right.
They wanted to know, how is this person?
Right.
They meant something to me.
Right.
So the other thing that I guess a purpose would best be explained later by, and I guess I didn't even know it then. Well, I'll tell you this in two pieces. There's a grocery chain up north. I'll think of the name in a while. But anyway, their motto is not the customer first. Their motto is employees first.
Mm.
And they are a dynamite grocery chain. They are looked after and followed by others. And the reason is, if you treat your employees very well, it's going to show.
Yeah.
And your customers will catch it. So the other thing that I liked about Woodson was watching the staff
Yes.
grow. I mean,
Yes.
to me, they were a bunch of young, right out of college folks, and they're still tight.
Right. Right.
30 years later.
Right. I mean, it's amazing.
You know, there was something good happening there.
I mean, they hold a party and everybody comes and you kind of, and there's just this progression of,
Yeah.
2-4 year bands of
Yeah.
people that evolved through that program and different things happened to them.
Now there's somebody asked how I see my job, how I see myself sort of in the realm of things. And I have this great image of myself that I just really enjoy. My image is to get out there with a broom and sweep the stage, get everything clear, move stuff out, make sure that there's a yellow line so people don't fall off the front when they're get everything ready. And then step back and the actors come on and they can do their, and that's...
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that, right.
And I like it.
You did that. You also, helped the actors understand what they were doing.
Well, sometimes,
Yeah.
but mostly is make sure they have the tools that they need, all the props,
right.
all the tools, all of this,
Make
all
sure
of
they got what
that.
they need.
And I love that work.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
very good
that's
at that.
a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so back to the topic at hand. I want to keep rolling back to that.
Okay. It's good
Is
somebody's
that-
keeping us on topic.
Is that Peter's right? We need a
In script, yeah.
questions or something.
So
But-
it called and I said, Peter said, when can we get together again? I said, well, how about tomorrow afternoon? Toby might be coming over. We'll just see what happens. So
But the things and I know that at 4 o'clock you have an important appointment.
appointment with Oprah. Yeah, how
What
we
time
doing?
is it? What
Quarter
time?
after 3.
Quarter
Okay.
to 3.
All right,
So
we'll wrap this up in the next 15, 20 minutes.
No, I'm not in a hurry, but I just wanted to see where we've been with regard to Wake Up Mama.
Yeah.
Wake up, Mama.
Wake up, Mama.
I gotta say it right. It's yeah. So we talked about intent,
Uh-huh.
and that's an important thing.
Right.
We talked about planning, and it didn't really go anywhere. We got sidetracked, or we moved over to intent.
Yeah, I think intent is more important than at this point than planning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The idea of, I think I get a little ahead of myself when I talk about, planning the future. But I really do think that this whole idea of whether you're that the intending doesn't have to be sort of linear and planning like. In fact, it's better if, I think part of what we came to was it's better, what's more true is not the intention, it hasn't got anything to do with getting us from here to there. The intention has to do with how do we be here? How do we be here in a way that is, you know, the minute I start thinking about, you know, the world we want to live in, it's like, well, it's not really about the world you want to live in. Or if there's some disconnect between the world you're living in and the world you want to live in, fix it, connect it, just do that, you know? And so it's that, you know, it's that intention of, it's that openness, it's that open-heartedness in the moment that is one of the qualities of that wakefulness.
Okay, two questions come to mind when you put it that way. That would, okay, our intent and being here, and what's the disconnect between how we are and how we want to be? One question would be on a personal level. What do individuals want? And I guess I can only speak for myself. I mean, I can't say all individuals want this or that, because you've got to get people together and find out.
Right.
But I would say to live without fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about, I'm not talking about fear of my child getting hit with a car. I'm talking more about fear of someone doing me harm with intent.
Okay.
You know, intent again. So that would be, and then, you know, so what do people want? Mm-hmm. That would be one thing.
Right.
And the other question is, what are some of the pretty daily factors in our community, in our lives, that prevent us from getting these 5 things we've agreed that we want? We agree. We have a Christian, a Muslim, an agnostic, an atheist, a Buddhist, 5 men, 5 women, and you can agree on 5 things you want. You get that far, you say, okay, we agree. We all do.
Right.
Okay, now what's preventing us from having these?
Right.
Because you can't agree on everything, but you try to get a few.
Right.
So what prevents? So pick something you want.
Okay. And
what prevents you from, on a personal level?
Okay.
Right, in the community. In the community.
So this is really good because, I mean, I think that the idea that, again, I'm convinced. We've got to, we'll continue to do the research. We'll continue to go look, but I'm convinced that whether we're Buddhist or Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, that there are some fundamental, some underlying values, dignity and respect of life.
Whose life?
Well, then it all of a sudden gets complicated right away. But let's start from the place of togetherness, of life.
Yeah, that's the reason that I wanted to start personally.
Okay, so
because the dignity and respect for life
gets complicated too fast.
Well, but you can get to there.
Right.
Your intent is to get to those things, and that's where intent is future.
Right.
So back to where we.
Okay.
The
So
intent here now.
back to personal. Back to personal. So, one of the things that I want in my life is for there to be one of the things I want for there to be in my life is less unkind expression of anger. Okay? So, in my life, the primary individual who's likely to express anger in an unkind way that impacts me is me.
So it's, you want less expression of anger, and what's preventing you from having that is within you
That's right.
to some extent.
Some is
Okay.
a set of habits and behaviors that works against that.
Mhm.
That as I am, for example, I mean, I've had a lot of opportunities, a lot of situations in which I could see my own anger, but now in the last couple of years since I've gotten sick, wow, another way to see this, another way of like, when I don't feel good physically, I notice that I have this sense that I have this kind of, oh, poor, pitiful me kind of story that gets started in me. And then I have this sense that I have the right not to be kind. That, well, I don't feel good. I physically, the old cat asleep in front of the fire who's arthritic. And you have to move the cat to tend to the fire. And so you go to pick up the cat, and what happens? The cat is like, not just responding to the pain. The first reaction that we have to pain is to lash out. And so that's in there. It's I'm not going to say it's hardwired in there because it's not. I don't think. But it gets it's biological, and then it's mental, and then it's emotional, and it's got all these components. And so somewhere along the line, I got the idea that if I don't feel good, I'm not responsible for being kind.
Mhm.
Well, that works. There's a couple of things you could say about that, but what fits in the way you set this up, which is quite nicely, is that it works to say, well, I'm very clear that I want this, and I'm doing this, and it's not going to work. So now, what will make this work? And do I have the willingness? First, do I believe in the capacity? Is this changeable? Am I, is it? I have this idea that if I don't feel good, I don't have the responsibility of being kind. Do I believe that? Well, no, actually, I don't believe that. That's a story that got started in me, and now it's in there, and now I see the story, and it's like, I don't buy it. It's not passing the sniff test. So now when it happens, when that, don't touch me like that. Why did you do that? When that energy arises, it kind of bubbles up, and it's like, here comes that story. It's like it's got a different tag in my consciousness now than it used to. Where it used to be like a bullet, bing, to the surface.
Yeah.
Here I am to save the day. It's like now it kind of shows up, and it's like, here I am. Here's that thing that actually works against you. Works against what you really want, but you've been doing it for so long. Don't you want to do it this time?
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Sometimes it's helpful for me in this kind of a discussion, and I'm still imagining we're 10 people, and this is a broad discussion.
Uh-huh.
To say, let's just take a look. We don't want to go back to, did your mother let you cry for 10 minutes or 15 minutes in the crib? We don't do that. But let's go back just a little bit and say, why did that come up like a bullet?
Right.
And my notion is it was an evolutionary thing, because when the animal is in pain,
Sure.
they've got to do something quick,
You're
because
vulnerable.
chances are they're being attacked, they're vulnerable, there's something going on. And so it's the animals that had that bullet reaction that lived.
Right. It's
The others got chewed up by the
Right.
tiger.
Right. It's the eat or be eaten world
Right.
that we live
So,
in.
so
Yes.
there we are.
Yes.
And so that, now, that's maybe one reason why that bullet reaction happens.
Right.
And did you know that you sniffed before you said that? Used the word?
No. Which word?
You said that doesn't sniff.
That doesn't
you
pass
said
the sniff
That
test.
doesn't pass the sniff
Right.
test. You sniffed just
Right.
before it.
Right.
Anyway.
Exactly. Right.
But
Yes. Because
the bullet comes up now. We're at a point, at the end of the Industrial Revolution and all that. Do we really need that bullet anymore?
exactly. Exactly.
Do you need it in your
Not only do I
time
not
in your
need
life?
it, not only do I not need it, but it's actually counterproductive.
Yeah.
It's actually counter to what I have. I've concluded what the objective is. I'd actually like to live in a world that's peaceful.
Mhm.
And here comes this bullet that comes up through me, in order to protect me from my caregivers, or whatever that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not blaming myself that bullet comes up, because it is, if not exclusively 4 billion years of evolution. There's 4 billion years of evolution in there, and then there's the like I said, the personal stuff, the mental and
Sure.
and emotional and formations that we put on top of that. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's it. You're right there, Toby, in that. And that, no, we don't. But see, and here is where it's like, do people get that? Do people get that their mind tells them stuff all the time that got laid down either as some evolutionary tale, or some cultural evolutionary tale, or some personal childhood tale, that they're still carrying around as an adult, that actually works against the things that they truly want, but which appear in our consciousness so fast that we don't even question their veracity. We don't even question the possibility that it's true. I remember, for some reason, I don't even know why this happened, but I was standing outside the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office one day, having a conversation with a guy about, and he was telling me why it was important that people spank their children. Why it was so important that people hit their children. Because if they didn't hit their children, they wouldn't learn not to do things that it's really important for them to know not to do.
Or that they could get hurt doing.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
you might get hurt, so
Yeah.
I'm going to hurt you first.
Right. And I said, what percentage of kids in prison do you suppose were spanked or were hit by their parents? Tell me, what percentage of the people who are in prison today do you think were hit by their parents? I said, not every kid in America gets grown up hit by their parents. Some actually grow up, they never got hit by their parents once. So what percentage of people in prison do you suspect were hit by their parents? He said, well, probably all of them. I said, I'm pretty sure it's all of them. I bet you it's so close to 100%, we could call it 100%. So guess what? The evidence is in. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You're not going to teach them something that way. That's not how we learn. You start smacking them around, maybe you'll teach them how to avoid you smacking them around until they get big enough to smack you back.
Right.
And then, you know, and then what you smack them, you're going to teach them to smack. So,
All right, so have you, I have an image of this, and we're caught in this so often, you know, we have our own,
you got your picture. Let me hear
somebody
your
else
picture.
is talking about something and
Uh-huh.
we're thinking about,
Okay.
you know, what the image is, but, you know, have you slowed the bullet down any?
Oh, yes.
And how did you do that? What's your image of that? It was a bullet, that's
Isn't that a brilliant
that's
image?
a brilliant image.
Yeah.
So what's your image now?
Well, my image now is of sort of it's more like a creature,
Mm.
you know, more like, instead of like this inner, it's like this voice that I've managed to disidentify a little bit. You know, when it was a bullet, like I said, it sort of blew up in my consciousness. There it was. This is what has to happen now. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And now it's you know, in this moment, I don't know what it was before you asked this question, but in this moment it's sort of like, you know, like I said, it's this sort of snarly, snotty critter that kind of shows up and goes, don't you want to say something mean about that? Don't you want to, you know, you don't have to be nice about this. You know, you have the right to let them know how you feel. You have the right to let them know how you feel. And so it's this kind of, it's kind of gone from an imperative to an advisor who's getting left out of the loop slowly, you know, and is kind of surly about it. But ultimately it just sort of falls off, you know. Ultimately, you know, I mean, and then we go back to intention. So now I'm living in a body that often doesn't feel very good. And so I wake up in the morning and it's like, you know, I feel pretty good this morning. I start going off in my day. It's like, oh wow, you know, the effort of eating breakfast and getting dressed is, I need to go back to bed. So I crawl back into bed. And it's like, you know, I don't feel very good. But that doesn't give me a right to be unkind. And so there's a little inoculation, you know, a little putting on the Teflon, if we want to use the bullet image of going, you know, I know that bullet, you know, I know it's, you know, even though it's not always like a bullet, sometimes it still appears like a bullet, but we're inoculating, you know, we're covering so when that bullet appears, you're like, oh yeah, I remember you. Yeah, I know you think that. Okay. You know, I know you think that, and I'm going to bite my tongue. Because I'm not saying
I had an image of
that. Yeah, what was yours?
an elevator.
Uh-huh.
Okay, here it comes up on the elevator again.
Yeah.
And you've got the little voice box, you know, you can talk to people on the elevator and you say, hey, you know, I know you were useful way back when, and you may be useful again, but I need you to get off at the 5th floor right now. Don't come to the top. 5th floor.
Oh, that's really helpful.
You know,
that's great.
You're okay, but
Yeah.
you got to get off there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know how many floors you got. You
Yeah.
might have 50 or you might have
Yeah.
7, but
Yeah.
get off at the 5th.
Yeah, just go ahead and get off at the 5th floor.
Yeah. And I'll be back in touch
Right.
if I need you.
All right. If something else comes up, I'm sure you'll be back on the
Oh, yeah,
elevator
you'll be
because
back.
I know
Yeah.
how much you want to help.
But the Teflon, when you said the Teflon
Yeah.
image, on the top floor,
Yeah.
you just put a big lock on the elevator doors. They won't open anymore.
Right.
You know, that's the Teflon.
Yeah.
But they, you know.
But that causes problems because the elevator starts stacking up there and it sometimes.
give you indigestion.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Cool.
well, okay. So
wrap us up here, Toby.
so I think conversations about getting some agreement on, to begin with, what we want personally,
Uh-huh.
and what keeps us from having that. Like, just, you gave a perfect example. And so, the other 8 of us here, another 9 of us, let's next time see if we can find 2 or maybe even 3, if we're lucky, things that we all, let's do one personal. Let's do one personal, maybe. Just like you did, because that really sort of sets the stage. And then let's see if we can agree on 3 or 4 things, or 2 or 3 things in the community that we want.
Okay.
And what prevents us as individuals
Right.
to having that. Now we would agree on what it is we want. Can we agree that we want, I don't know, more sidewalks or something?
Right.
Can we agree that we, the 10 of us, want this? What prevents you from having it, you from having it? So what are the factors that prevent us from having it? And then grow that in number of things, or in geographical area, or in numbers of people, or just grow it. But I think we have to start to see if it works on a micro level.
Okay.
And if it works, then we can expand it a little, or we can maybe suggest it to somebody else and see if they can make it work. Is it replicable?
Right. Right.
Here's how we did it.
See what you can do. Yeah.
See if you guys can do it. Yeah. So it must be 4 o'clock. There's Oprah.
So first,
Hey, Oprah.
Hey.
oh, Brian, perfect. Are you going back to the shop, ma'am?
Yeah.
I need you to carry. Mama thing has a couple of different incarnations, and it's working in different directions, and so this is a slight. I have a set piece that I'm going to read.
Are you ready for your close up?
I'm ready for my close up. Yes.
I figured I was off camera. Ronald, is this thing on, Ronald Reagan?
Hang on just a
I don't
second.
hold the little bastards for a while.
Yeah, really.
I think that's the first. Who was that? It was Buffalo
Soupy
Bill
Sales
or
or
Soupy
Soupy
Sales.
Sales or
Yeah.
somebody.
One of the very first major open microphone gaffes. Some child entertainers. Oh, I'll hold the little bastards for a while.
That's funny.
Anytime, boss.
Let me reframe you a little bit here. I think.
That we've gotten interested in, we actually have started talking about the possibility of going to Brazil, and my nephew called yesterday and said, well, John of God's going to be on Oprah, and so if you need to make an appointment with him, you should probably do it in the morning before he's on Oprah, because the Oprah effect is huge.
Oh, God.
So, anyway.
All right.
You're already supposed to be seeing thousands of people a day.
Yeah,
You're all set.
you ready? It's not like it hasn't changed before. It's all change. Often very slow change, sometimes incredibly sudden, but with a rhythm, with understanding. Water has worn massive canyons, sloshed back and forth in the seas. The earth is pushed up, solid plate against solid plate, pushing up mountains miles tall, only so they can erode back down. On and on. But life is more complicated. Life organizes itself, uses resources and then dies and gives back the resources. The beings eat each other. Other things happen. The algae that floated on the early sea exhaled a reactive gas that fed life, and life bloomed on me. And so it has seemed since the beginning that life begat life. First came the plants, then the animals. The complexity abounded. But this being, so recently evolved, is different. It begets death, It takes the resources, but returns them unusable. It is out of balance. 4 million years of life has imbued the planet herself with life. And she has felt the loss of so much life. This being is as painful as a comet, but the response needed was far different. A comet strikes, the repercussions rumble through, and then you heal. This wasn't an earthquake, or a volcano, or sky debris. This was disease. Life was out of balance. So the earth woke up, because life depended on it.
Cool.
So I want like just like a video of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe just the planet
Right.
with the voiceover.
All right. Cool. We can do that.
See what that does. What do you think of that?
So the earth woke up.
So this idea, the very initial incarnation of this idea was a friend and I were at the beach and we were talking about this and we thought, well, what if we read a novel about like what if we did awaken this maternal consciousness? You know, what if it's like, you know, like I said, you know, the kind of, what would that look like? What if there was a consciousness sort of outside of humanity that, you know, I mean, I think it's often our greatest wish that some force bigger than us would
Come clean up this mess.
come clean up this mess, come stop us.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, a sort of unfortunate negative side of that is the only thing that would get all the people on Earth together
yeah.
in one solid, unified voice is attack from outer space. You know,
Well,
I mean,
it makes it clear, I mean, the us and them, I mean, there you go. I mean,
there's something that prevents us from having what we want.
right,
Us
right.
and them.
The us and them mentality is exactly something that prevents us from getting what we want. And yeah, and you know, do we have to have a them for all of us to be us? Or can we create an all of us is thus, all of us is usness
That's
without a themness?
the fear mentality.
Right, without the right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I'm gonna
All right.
go do whatever it is I'm gonna do.
7 minutes to Oprah.
Right?
7 minutes to Oprah.
7 minutes to Oprah. Well,
What
cool.
am I gonna
We're gonna.
I am gonna go.
What are you gonna go do, Toby?
I'm gonna go get ready for attending the Salvation Army Thanksgiving dinner tonight.
Oh, nice.
And I, in
Is it a dinner
preparation.
and a dance? Will there be
No, I'm
dancing?
afraid not. No, they don't
Doofuses.
dance. Dancing leads to other things that they don't want.
That the Salvation Army's against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they dance, but I've never danced over there. But our friend Wanda is a Salvationist, has been since she's been, you've met Wanda, haven't you, Peter?
I believe I have.
Yeah, she's Sally's age and she's developmentally delayed.
Uh-huh.
And some people get a golden watch when they leave from their job. When Sally left mental health, she got Wanda. And we still have her, and that's 20 years ago. So
Better than a watch, huh?
better than, well, I don't know, you can put a watch in a drawer. It doesn't call you 4 times a day on the telephone.
Oh, no, that's a lot.
But it works out all right. She's a good friend. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish her ill, but sometimes it's a bit trying.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I had lunch with another fella who is probably praying for me at this moment because he says that
Isn't that good?
without Christ you can't go to heaven. And I said, not in my book. So
It's good to have people pray for you.
and I need to tell them sometime, if you're right, email me, would you? I'll be down there shoveling coal.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, when we start the group of 8, we need your lunch date to be in the room. So
oh boy, I don't know. We might want to vet a little bit for the first group.
Yeah, we might be setting ourselves up for.
Well, he's very bright, but he's.
We're not going to take an intermission here, but if you need to take care of yourself, take care of yourself. Before we get started, Ruth is going to settle in here at the controls, and I'm going to stand here, if that's okay. So some of you in the balcony, why don't you guys come on over to this side? Come on over here. Go on over to the left side. We're so far left here, we're right. You like that? That's the catchphrase of my new political party I want to start. It's called Progressive Fundamentals. Fundamental progressive, that's it. Shall we thank Matt one more time? When we finish with this portion of the show, we are going to take a break. We've got quite a bit of wonderful finger food that various people have brought. So I want to do a few thank yous right here before we get started. So I want to thank everybody who brought food to this event. Thank you very much. I haven't gotten to sample it yet, but once I get done talking, we're going to do that. And I want to thank my family. Many members of my family here. All 3 of my siblings are here with loved ones and other folks and other parts of my family, whether they're related to me or not, are here from a fairly long distance. And I wanted to thank all them. And I've already thanked all of you guys for coming. There's a huge list of people to thank for the fact that we had the opportunity to go to Brazil. Everybody from the guy who provided the frequent flyer miles to the guy that drove me to the airport, Mike here. It's a huge, huge, huge list of people. So I start this part of the show here with great gratitude in my heart. As Ruth and I talked about how to do this, we first started out, there was going to be a Ruth portion of the show and a Margie portion of the show, and we worked on that for a while, and then we realized that it works better if we work together. That way, it's sort of like the old story about, when you cut an apple in half, you got 2 daughters and one of them wants the orange part and the orange and the other one wants the rind. So, you don't necessarily cut it in half and just give it to them. You figure out where the strengths are. And so that was a terrible analogy, but if you didn't understand what that meant, don't worry, you got it. But in our family, I'm the storyteller. And as a storyteller, I have a very strong rule that you don't let the truth stand in the way of a good story. Okay? But this story is all about the truth. And what is truth? Well, truth is what you experience. And so it's about our experience. And what we want to convey tonight, first of all, we want to show you some pictures in a minute here about what we saw and what we did, but we also want to convey to you how we were changed by the experience. And so Ruth is going to both interrupt and have her own portion of the show as we go along to help, hopefully bring in, to help me not get too far down the road of being the storyteller. And to keep bringing us back to the experience. Did I get that right? That close? That's good enough?
And I apologize now for not being able to stand up and speak out like Margie's doing, but I did a little swan dive Friday night and hurt my foot. And so I'm keeping it up as best I can.
there on the balcony? Can you hear me? Am I loud enough? Good, good. Okay. Are the acoustics in this room not amazing? Yeah. All right. All right. So why did we go to Brazil? We went to Brazil because 3 years ago I was diagnosed with cancer, and while I've been doing all the sort of Western medicine things, not all of them, but some of them. I've been doing some of those things. We've also been doing a lot of other things. And Ruth has been spending a fair amount of time on the internet doing explorations, and somewhere along the line she ran into a story about this guy named John of God. So we went to Brazil to see John of God. Having run into it, once that happened, boy, it was like the door to a new universe opened up. The minute we found this information and started talking about it, we knew that, well, our friend Lindsay, who's here in the room somewhere, up in the balcony, there's Lindsay. Hi, I'm talking about you. We found out that she had been twice the year before, and then we found out that a friend of ours had gone 10 years ago. And we started talking with people who we either knew or who knew people, and we started to explore the possibility of doing this trip. And frankly, my mind was pretty much set on one thing, and that was to cure this cancer that has decided, for some reason, that it wants to take up residence in my abdomen. So that was the primary purpose of our trip. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you the end of this story right now, suspend the suspense. And then we'll see what all fills in the details. To suspend the suspense, no, as of today, I can't tell you that I am confident that I am cured of cancer. But I can tell you that a tremendous healing happened on this journey, and that healing is ongoing, and that this gathering is part of that healing. We called this evening Let the Healing In. That was as much a reminder for me and for Ruth as it was for you guys. I see each and every one of you as part of my healing journey, and that's another reason why I'm delighted that you all are here. So we're going to go to Brazil. We've been in Brazil here. We're gonna do what they do at the casa. And they do a thing there that they call sit in current, which basically is a meditation. So we're going to start that way. You want to start it, Ruth? You want me to get them lined up?
Go ahead, you can line them up.
All right. So what I'd like everybody to do is please sit in your chair, sit upright as comfortably as you can. Everybody's starting to do the right thing already. Uncross your legs and your arms. And now, if you don't mind, close your eyes. Now, if you don't mind, if you have your right hand free, put it on your heart. Put it on your heart. This is what they call sitting in current. There are, on any given day in Avijana, 100 to 600 people sitting through sessions like this for hours at a time. And each one of those sessions starts with a prayer, which is said in Portuguese. And I thought it was like the standard Lord's Prayer kind of thing. And I thought it was funny because they kept talking about how not Christian this place was, but then every day you went there, you heard the Lord's Prayer and Ave Maria. So I was getting a little confused about that. But when you actually hear this translation of the Casa Lord's Prayer and the Casa Ave Maria, maybe it'll make a little more sense to you. How this spiritual center worked very hard to make sure that it was open to people of all faiths.
I also want to add that current is created by all who are present. It makes a circle of concentration filled with love and prayers. The current brings in the light for the practice of good. So here's the Lord's Prayer that was said to begin each session. O cosmic birther of all radiance and vibration, soften the ground of our being and carve out a space within us where your presence can abide. Fill us with your creativity so that we may be empowered to bear the fruit of your mission. Let each of our actions bear fruit in accordance with our desire. Endow us with the wisdom to produce and share what each being needs to grow and flourish. Untie the tangled threads of destiny that bind us as we release others from the entanglement of past mistakes. Do not let us be seduced by that which would divert us from our true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of the present moment. For you are the ground and the fruitful vision, the birth, power, and fulfillment, as all is gathered and made whole once again. Amen. And the Divine Mother's Prayer, which followed. Our Mother, whose body is the earth, sacred is thy being. Thy gardens grow. Thy will be done in our cities as it is in nature. Thanks be this day for food, air, and water. Forgive us our sins against the earth, as we are learning to forgive one another. And surrender us not into extinction, but deliver us from our folly. For thine is the beauty and the power and all life from birth to death, from beginning to end. Amen. So be it forever. Blessed be. And now, since it would be quite difficult to watch a slideshow with your eyes closed, you can open them now, and we will begin. Keep moving forward. All right. So there's a story about these sunset pictures that we're flashing through here, but that's not where the story begins. It's where this little piece of story ends. So we'll just go ahead and move on through. Before we get to that one. So we got to Brazil in this is where the story starts. It starts in an airplane, right? As all good adventure stories start. There she is in the there she is in the airplane on our way to Brazil. And yeah, that's not so. That's just the quality. Yeah, look where all those brown spots come from. That would be the quality of something going on with the projector. But the shirt looks cool. So there we go. We landed in Brazil. And this is the place where we landed. We landed at a hotel called the Pousada Furlan. And one of the wonderful things about the Pousada Furlan was the garden. This is a Persian lemon tree next to the little pink flowered tree. Everywhere, of course, in Brazil, there are amazing orchids and amazing flowers. We took many pictures in this garden, mostly because we were chasing this one hummingbird around the garden trying to get his picture. We didn't succeed in getting his picture in the garden, but we did take lots of pretty pictures of the orchids and magical flowers that we don't know the names of. And we did get some bird pictures. That's a yucca. We did get some bird pictures. And then scroll on through here. There's a bird. There's a bird. And then finally, the hummingbird got tired enough of us chasing it around the garden and finally just posed for us and sat still so that Ruth could get its picture. So the garden at Pousada Furlan was one of the 3 centers of our home for our 3.5-week journey there. This mural was painted on the wall right outside our bedroom door, so when we opened our door in the morning, this was the first thing we saw. I didn't bring a picture of the room, but I did bring a picture of the shower. Now this shower had one knob, and this is important because this tells you a little bit about how I think and why it's a problem. Because that shower had one knob, I decided the water that came out of it was going to be cold. Forget the fact that there's like electrical wires there. They don't look like they do anything, right? And so for several days, I was really reluctant to take a shower because I don't like cold showers. And so finally, when I did get into the shower, and I did realize that the water comes out warm, and it comes out hotter if you turn the volume down, and a little cooler if you turn the volume up, that it's got its whole thing worked out there that you can have a hot shower. I had this delightful experience of having a hot shower after not having one for 3-4 days. But I also learned something important, remembered something important, which is that my mind makes up stuff. We would use another word, but it makes up stuff. And that stuff limits my experience. It doesn't enhance my experience. And so over and over and over and over in this journey, I got to go, is that real? Or is that just something my mind made up? So we'll see.